All right. What are your thoughts on the man, that is Justice Maraga? Yesterday, he put out a tweet with regards to what the Judicial Service Commission, a statement they put out that the judiciary would not be intimidated, especially after that historic ruling.
Well, he's the kind of Chief Justice that we need all over Africa, because the judiciary is vital for the survival of democracy and the rule of law in Africa. And you need a man like the Kenyan Chief Justice who has stood up against the sitting government. It's the first time that that has happened at the national level in Africa. We've had it here in Nigeria in one or two states where the Chief Judge ruled against the results of elections. But we need more people like the Kenyan Chief Justice to ensure the survival of democracy and the rule of law in Africa.
All right. It was a pleasure to have you, Ambassador Oladapo Fafawura, on the program. Thank you so much, former Deputy Permanent Representative of Nigeria at the United Nations. Well, let's go over right now, still talking about the issue of Kenya. Joining us is a Professor of History and International Relations at the University of Benin, Professor Eddie Eragbe. A pleasure to have you on. Opposition leader Raila Odinga says his coalition would not participate in the scheduled October 17th rerun presidential polls unless it is given legal and constitutional guarantees. What's your take on this?
To Raila Odinga to go ahead for the elections, because there's no other way that he's going to become president if he doesn't go through the elections. And the constitutional guarantees and things he's talking about, we don't really grasp what he's emphasizing by that, because what has come out from the rulings by the Supreme Court border on the fact that certain issues were not properly handled, which meant that the elections were not very transparent, and they are now saying go back and handle the elections. And to me, therefore, and I believe that should be the position of those that are hoping that democracy will continue to thrive in Kenya, is that the opposition, that is Odinga and his people, should go and get ready for the elections. There's no other way he's going to be declared president if he doesn't participate in the election. And so to that extent, I believe the grandstanding that is not going to do that is really pushing the people of Kenya by way of demanding that his own must now be the way that Kenya must go.
Okay, so you don't think the request might be granted in any way?
No, because the basic issue here, which has thrown up the possibility of a postponement, is that the IT firm in France that is responsible for providing the backup for these elections by yesterday was indicating that they are not quite sure yet if they are going to be ready. But that will mean that if they are not ready, then that would be grounds enough to talk about postponement. But to just say because he is demanding for it, then they will have to postpone, I don't believe that is the way to go for Kenya.
All right, Prof. The electoral commissioners have been criticized by mostly the opposition and its supporters since the ruling. Do you envisage a tough task ahead of the elections for the electoral officers? Can they regain the confidence of Kenyan electorate?
Yeah, I think that, like the ambassador was really pointing out now, this is a new route that we are taking. That is by way of going technical, technology becoming the main determinant in terms of our elections. And from what we have seen, the nullification of this election hinged largely on the failure of the electoral body to post results as they were supposed to do. And then let's also remember that they have been accused, that is the electoral body, of releasing results, whereas out of the 40,000 plus polling booth areas from where they were expecting results, some results have not yet gotten to the place by the time they have released the results. And so I would expect now that since the electoral body is aware and conscious of the fact that it has already been indicted in terms of its conduct, that they are definitely going to perform better than they did previously. So that is because now, unlike what happened before, even for the international observers, because this is a kind of an embarrassment for us, because we know that a good number of them endorsed the elections as being credible, transparent, and all. But for us to now see that with all their endorsements, the results have been nullified, it follows that everybody has to be more attentive as to the way things are conducted. And then, of course, like the ambassador pointed out earlier, which I've also alluded to, it follows that the way we are now it is not just enough for you to declare results. You have to have the materials with which to back up what you have declared. That is where the whole issue of the fact that the IT reports, they don't back what was declared, becomes very relevant. So for me, what I am saying in essence is that the Electoral Commission owes it to the people of Kenya to be more diligent, more conscientious, and more determined to make sure that they conduct elections that will not just be the ones that people will say are transparent, but are also backed up by evidence in terms of materials that are used for the elections.
All right, finally, Professor Iragbe, what are your thoughts with regards to the date, October 17th? Is it foreseeable? Is it something that you see happening? And what next do you think for Kenya?
Yeah, like I said earlier on, I think that, well, this is supposed to be that the elections, the rerun, should be held within 60 days after, before, that is why they were picking the 17th October date. That, for now, we don't have any reason to believe it cannot hold, except, as I have mentioned, the IT firm in France that is the backing up telecommunication body, that is the technological body that is supposed to help these things to work. They have already raised doubts as to where they go to meet up. For me, even if it means shifting the election by a day or a week and all of that, it is the way Kenya must go, because there is no alternative to it. You must still conduct that election. And so if there are extraordinary circumstances that make it that they have to have a shift, so be it. But for now, I don't think that the other position, by that is the aspirant, Odinga, that he wants the thing to be postponed, I don't believe that is the way Kenya should go. Because if we are talking of going by the rule of law, which is the basis of democracy, it is that the Supreme Court has given a period in which the election should be conducted. The body that is mandated to set the date has set the date. And if they can get the technical components ready by that date, there's no reason why the election will not be held. And one thing we must emphasize at this stage, which is quite disturbing for us, is that elections should not always be out, they will come out the way we want them. If they don't, we should always put the interests of the people beyond our own personal interests. That is why we cannot but, at this stage,
thank you so much,
go back and appreciate.
Thank you so much. This is the much we can take on this issue. Thank you so much. We've been talking to a Professor of History and International Relations at the University of Benin, Professor Eddie Iragbe. Well, still to come on the program, we take a look at what was once an abandoned building, now Africa's largest art museum. Join us again.